The beeping of machines was slow and steady, too calm for the chaos I remembered before everything went dark. I came to in a hospital room, the lights above too bright and the corners of the room too quiet. My throat was dry and my body felt like it had been stitched back together with glass. I didn't know how I got there. Not at first. But the moment I turned my head slightly and saw the blood-spotted IV tape, it hit me. Car crash, rain, headlights, screams. And then nothing. Until now. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. I wanted to speak, to call for someone, but all I could do was breathe. It was then that I heard voices outside the curtain, soft at first, but then one line pierced the fog in my mind like a dagger. She doesn't have insurance. If it's that serious, let her go. It was my mother's voice. Flat, cold, like she was asking for a refund on shoes that didn't fit. Another voice, my father's. We told her not to drive in this weather. That's not our debt. We already paid for her college once and she dropped out. The doctor hesitated. But she's awake, he said, and stable. With care, she can recover. But she'll need surgery to stabilize the bleeding. There was a pause, then my mother again. We're not authorizing it. She's not a child anymore, and we're not bankrupting ourselves for her mistakes. I couldn't move. I couldn't even cry. My eyes were open, but I was paralyzed by something worse than injury truth. They were ready to let me die, not because there was no hope, but because I was expensive, disposable. My own parents were standing feet away from me, debating my worth like I was an old car in a junkyard. She didn't even graduate, my dad said. What future does she have anyway? We have Lily to think about. Her grad school isn't going to pay for itself. Lily, of course. My younger sister, the golden child, the 4.0 angel with the diamond-studded future. She got scholarships, private tutors, and praise. I got thrift store backpacks and silent glares when I came home with bruises from working double shifts. And now I was about to get a DNR behind my back because she deserved the future I apparently didn't. I'll write a note, my mother said. If she dies, that's on God. We don't owe her anything. The curtain moved slightly, but no one came in. I closed my eyes again. Because I knew something they didn't. They thought I couldn't hear them. But I did. Every word. And they had no idea what they just woke up. The surgery happened not because of them, but because of a resident nurse who recognized me from the cafe I used to work at. She pleaded with the on-call team to delay any final orders. She told them I had no one else and that I was conscious, that I might recover if stabilized. And somehow, someone listened. I spent 5 days in intensive care. Not one visitor, not a card, not even a text. I stared at the same ceiling tiles each night and memorized every flicker in the fluorescent light. By day 6, I was moved to a shared room. My vitals were stronger. I could whisper words again. That's when a volunteer wheeled in a small bag my belongings. Cracked phone, torn jacket, and a folded piece of paper. It wasn't a note from my parents. It was a bill. Not from the hospital, but from my mother. Medical emergency cost breakdown, not our responsibility. It was itemized. Gas money they'd spent driving to the hospital and back. Lost wages for taking the day off. Emotional toll, priceless. It ended with, "We'll forgive this once, but you're not our problem anymore." I sat there shaking, the paper cutting into my palm. Forgive? They were ready to kill me and forgive me for surviving? No, not this time. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stared at that list and started writing one of my own. Because if I was no longer their problem, then they were about to become mine. And I would make sure they never forgot the cost of trying to bury me alive. The first thing I did when I could walk again was stand in front of the hospital mirror and look at the scar that curved beneath my collarbone. It was jagged, purple, raw. But it wasn't ugly. It was proof that I survived something my own parents hoped I wouldn't. I spent 2 more weeks in the hospital, relearning how to move without my ribs screaming and my right hand shaking. The nurse who saved me, Angela, checked in every morning before her shift ended. She never asked about my family, but one day she left a note on my tray. "You didn't deserve that. Heal for yourself." I folded it and kept it in my wallet. When I was finally discharged, I didn't go home. I couldn't afford rent anymore, not after missing weeks of work, and I sure as hell wasn't calling my parents. Instead, I used the hospital Wi-Fi to apply for a community rehabilitation program. They offered transitional housing and financial literacy support for patients who had been abandoned literally or legally by family. When they asked what had happened, I simply said, "They told the doctor to let me die." No one needed more than that. I got a tiny studio above a mechanic shop. The walls were cracked and the heater barely worked, but it was mine. I slept on a donated mattress with a heating pad wrapped around my stomach and made soup from dollar store cans. And I worked. I picked up gigs, food delivery, online surveys, part-time scheduling at the gas station 3 blocks away. I also started learning something new. Billing systems. Medical debt, collections, how invoices were structured, what you could legally charge for, what services could be itemized, what costs could be disputed. I watched hours of legal TikToks and deep dived into hospital admin forums. Why? Because my mother sent me a bill, and I wanted to return the favor, but not with pettiness, with precision. By month 4, I was stable, still sore, still cautious with every step, but strong enough to face the reality I'd been planning for since the moment I opened my eyes in that hospital bed. I dug out an old folder I'd kept from my teens, tucked between faded report cards and job applications. Inside was something my mother forgot she signed when I was 17. A co-signer agreement for a financial education seminar loan she once made me take to learn budgeting. She used my name, took out the loan, and told me I'd thank her one day. She never paid it back. But I had the signature, her ID, a photocopy of the form. And now? I had something else. An LLC, registered under my name for a small freelance medical consulting service. It was barely off the ground, but it gave me legal grounds to create an invoice. So I drafted one. Client, Elaine T. Mother. Date of service, emergency emotional physical trauma. Scope, lifelong emotional neglect, attempted medical abandonment, defamation to hospital staff, itemized betrayal. Subtotal, $0, forgiveness is free. Penalty, $38,642 trauma recovery cost. Then I mailed it. Certified, signature required. But I didn't stop there. I posted it redacted on my professional site under a blog titled, "What Betrayal Actually Costs." The article went viral in niche circles. Not because of who she was, but because of how many people related. The comments were full of people sharing their own horror stories of being left behind, billed for love, told they were too expensive to keep alive. And while she didn't respond publicly, I knew the moment she saw it. "Because Lily messaged me. Mom is freaking out. She says you're trying to destroy her. She said you're lying." I replied once. "Then tell her to dispute the charge. She can start by apologizing under oath." Lily didn't respond again. But 2 days later, a letter arrived. From my mother. No return address. Inside was a check for $3,000 and a note that read, "We didn't mean it. You misunderstood. Please don't escalate this." I tore the check in half and sent back my original invoice, this time with late fees. I didn't want her money. I wanted her to know that the silence she banked on would now cost her something real. And that was just the beginning. Because the real payment wasn't financial. It was emotional. And the interest was still growing. 3 months passed. I didn't hear from my mother again. No calls, no texts, no more checks. But I didn't need her voice to know she was unraveling. Because the people around her started making noise. Her best friend unfollowed me after liking the blog post first. One of her Facebook mom groups imploded when someone anonymously reposted a screenshot of the fake bill she sent me, the one she'd proudly shared in a private parenting thread as a lesson in consequences. Turns out, even suburban parents have limits when it comes to billing your own daughter for surviving. And then came the real moment. The one I didn't plan. The one she walked right into. It was Lily's graduation, a big private university ceremony my mother had been bragging about for years. She'd already posted the invitations, the travel plans, the custom champagne glasses with mother of a master's graduate etched into the side. And I got one too. A printed invitation, folded in silver cardstock, addressed like nothing had ever happened. It didn't say sorry. It didn't say we miss you. It just said, Lily would love to see you. Let's not dwell on the past. That was it. Like I had just missed a movie night, not been left to die on a hospital bed. And that's when I knew exactly how this needed to end. So I RSVP'd, attending. Not for them. For the stage, for the moment, for the truth. The ceremony was held in a huge banquet hall, rented, decorated, and dripping with pride. I arrived 10 minutes late, dressed in all black, hair pulled back, no makeup. Just enough presence to make them stare, and enough silence to make them sweat. My father looked like he'd seen a ghost. My mother smiled plastic and strained. I'm glad you came, she whispered, reaching for a hug. I stepped back. Don't touch me. She looked around quickly to see who noticed. Then I took my seat, front row, reserved for family. Lily took the stage 40 minutes later, beaming in her cap and gown. I clapped just once, slow and quiet. Then came the moment of speeches. The MC invited family members to speak. A few proud parents came up stories of sacrifice, inspiration, love. And then, to my mother's shock, Lily invited me. Not her. Me. She didn't know everything, but she knew enough. Because I'd told her the truth in a single message 2 weeks earlier. Mom tried to let me die to protect your tuition. Just thought you should know what she sacrificed for you. Lily didn't reply. But now, on stage, she called my name. Before I thank anyone else, she said, scanning the room, I want to thank the person who taught me what survival actually looks like. I stood, walked calmly to the podium. And for the first time in my life, with every eye on me, I spoke as someone they couldn't ignore. My parents once told a doctor not to save me, I said clearly. Because I wasn't worth the debt, because someone else's success meant more to them than my life. But I'm still here, not because of them, but in spite of them. The room was dead silent. I looked directly at my mother. And since then, I've learned that what you can't afford says more about you than what you can. You couldn't afford compassion. You couldn't afford love. You couldn't afford to be human. So I sent you a bill, not for the money, but for the truth. I stepped down without another word. Applause broke out. Hesitant at first, then louder, then thunderous. My mother looked frozen, pale, crushed by a weight she couldn't itemize or return to sender. And I left, without waiting for cake, without saying goodbye. I didn't need anything from her anymore. Not her approval, not her apology, just her silence, which, finally, she gave me. The next week, I got a notification. Payment received. $38,642. She paid the invoice in full. No note, no message, just the transaction. And I used it for something she could never take credit for. A foundation. Small at first, quiet, but real. Survivor fund, for those abandoned when they needed saving most. Because now, I write the bills. And I decide who's worth saving. And guess what? It's not her. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.